Hello everyone, welcome to your questions on astrology edition 4. 9 of your questions answered on this video, full list below. And don't forget to continue to post if you have new questions for me to answer in upcoming editions. Make it a general question so it's of use to everybody. If you're new to my channel, sub below and let's begin. First, a question from USP Studios. How does transit and dasha affect a person simultaneously? Well, thank you so much. A very important question indeed, and let me try to answer that for you. First of all, everyone, we have to understand exactly what is Mahadasha. The word dasha, loosely translated, means seat, condition, experience, or situation. I like to use the word situation. It's where you are bound. It's where you are sitting, where you are having to experience life. It's good to use analogy here. I hope I won't lose you, but let me try. Look, imagine you're in a coffee shop, everybody. Everybody knows what that's like. When you're in a coffee shop situation with the tables and chairs and the coffee smell and the chatter of people and the cakes and everything, you've got a certain experience of life and you are bound by that experience for as long as you are in that situation, that coffee shop situation. Yeah. Now imagine you are on a beach. See yourself on a beach. Wow, your whole situation has changed in life, yeah? And your whole experience of life has completely altered. There's the sea and the surf and the beach and the sand and the sound of the seagulls and the air, and everything is completely different to being in a coffee shop situation. And you feel different, don't you? Your mind has changed. Your whole experience of life is different. So this is actually what Mahadasha is. It's a situation in your life, a completely separate set of circumstances and experiences for which you are bound for a certain period of time. A transit, however, is completely different. Planets are transiting in the sky every moment, changing signs continually. Moon every few days, Saturn up to 2.5 years. So that is a temporary imposition from what is happening at the moment, affecting your chart and your life. So back to the astrology, because basically Mahadasha is like that coffee shop beach situation. You're stuck in a certain parameter of your life, and a transit is a temporary imposition. How it will impact you depends completely on the Mahadasha. How much it is favorable to you, how much you are enjoying or not those karmas in your life. So when you have a very favorable Mahadasha, how to judge, check on my channel. I have a whole playlist. So say you have your 2nd, 4th or 6th sequence Mahadasha, you have a very strong planet for your rising sign, and you maybe have a low degree of that planet also, lessening those difficult karmas, and it's a well-placed, well-aspected planet. You're in a good, strong place. So even when Sati happens, let's say, one of the most difficult transits you can have, Saturn to your moon, you will still experience all of that impact of Sati, but you will be able to accommodate it much more easily because of that Mahadasha. On the contrary, when your Mahadasha is troublesome for you, maybe it's your 3rd, your 5th or your 7th dasha, it's got a high degree of karma, it's not favorable for your ascendant, so many factors, then that same Sati is going to really impact you, because the situation you are in is already unfavorable to you, and that transit is going to really impact in your life. It's going to be hard to accommodate it because you don't have the resources and fortune at hand. So definitely, everybody, dasha is the most important factor, but transit is excellent for timing events and can often be missed. Let's take a very good example, because I've actually seen this manifest. If you are in Mars Mahadasha, Mars has an 8th aspect on Saturn in your chart. Obviously, Mars-Saturn bhukti is going to be tough, but the real event often happens when you see Mars-Saturn conjunct in the sky, when there is that Mars-Saturn aspect happening, and that can only happen every 2 years, obviously. So it's about 3 times maximum in that 7-year period that Mars-Saturn conjunct. Watch those times. That's when those difficult karmas of that Mars-Saturn natal position, natal aspect, are most likely to manifest. So I hope that in some way this has answered your question. Sweet Sadie says, what placement should I look for to determine a move or change of location? Thank you for the question. I'm going to start by answering it with a very important indication. Do you actually like moving? You might think this is irrelevant, but it's very important, because when I go through all the indications of when you might move, if you don't enjoy moving, you'll probably resist and it'll become a little bit even traumatic. So let me explain. It's all to do with your rising sign, everyone. So if you have movable signs rising like Gemini, Sagittarius, Virgo, Pisces, a little less for Virgo, but definitely all the others, you have itchy feet and you like moving, you like change, you like variety. I've seen Sagittarius rising almost constantly, changing home. I don't know how many homes I've seen for Sagittarius rising, but again, if you have Saturn on that ascendant or maybe something else, it's a little bit more difficult, but you still have those itchy feet. You like variety in living situation. If you have a fixed sign, however, how different could it be? If you have Leo rising, Aquarius rising, Taurus or Scorpio rising, you don't like to move. That's because 4th house is also fixed. So you like your feet sticking in the same place for years and years. These are the people who can be born in a home and die in the same home. It does happen. Obviously, though, planetary indications in your chart can change these factors, but fixed signs rising most definitely do not enjoy moving that much. If you have a cardinal sign rising, Aries, Libra, Cancer, Capricorn, moving is good for you. It's something which moves your life on. You make moves strategically, and they are very often favorable for you. Next factor, which is of course your exact question, what are the indications for when you will make a move? Let's start with Mahadasha. Definitely Mahadasha of any planet in the D4 4th house, rising sign, or the 4th house of the D1 are definitely indications of moving. I'll say those again. So it's the D1 4th house in the D4 and the D4 ascendant definitely show shift in location. Another factor is the Lord of your 4th house in your D4 Mahadasha, but also having a major transit to your D1 4th house often indicates moving. Finally, general transits, Saturn transit, 4th from your moon, which is of course Saturn Daya, and 4th from your Lagna in your D1 definitely shift events in your life and can force you to have to move even though you do not really want to. Next question from Jahan Leferrier. I hope I got that correct, Jahan. And Jahan says, if D60 and D9 ascendants are the same, is this significant? Well, thank you, because actually it is very significant. Let me explain. D60 chart represents your last incarnation as a human being. And following the school of Pandit Sanjay Rath, who you know I follow very, very closely, those karmas in the D60 which will manifest in this life are those that have come through to the D9 only. So let me get a little bit more clarification on this for you. And although this seems like a specific question, it's actually good for everybody. You should all check your D60 chart after you've listened to this. But of course, you must have an accurate D60. So let's say that you've got Saturn in Pisces in your D60 chart. Is that Saturn in Pisces replicated in the D9? Wow. That karma is coming through in this very lifetime. And when you go through Saturn Dasha or when you have Saturn transiting to that Saturn sign, Pisces, that's going to be when it's all going to be set off at some point in your life. 3 times in your life, maybe those karmas come through. What are the karmas? Check what Saturn Pisces doing in your D60 to find out what they originate from. So that's the key, everybody. A planet in the D60 coming through into your D9 is a definite karma that's going to come into your life in a big way. You'll be startled by it. You'll think, how did that happen to me? Where's that come from? It's come from that past human birth, most definitely. Now let's consider Ascendant. Ascendant in your D60 is who you were in your past life. And it's very literal, everyone. It's really quite simplistic even sometimes. Let's say you've got Gemini rising D60. You may have been a twin. You got Sagittarius rising. You may have ridden horses in a big way. It's actually that simple, but complicated too. So maybe Gemini rising, you were a mathematician, you were a writer, you were involved in some sort of commerce. Sagittarius, you may have been religiously minded, a priest, anything in that regard. You get the idea. So to answer your specific question then, when the ascendants are the same D60, D9, you are continuing on with the same dharmic path. You have a purpose in life that you didn't continue in that last human birth, and you are continuing on with those karmas now. It's a very great opportunity actually to rectify. You have to study your D60. You have to see aspects to that ascendant, lots of things, and specifically, as I say, planets in the same signs coming through to your D9 chart. And by the way, everyone, it's got nothing to do with the house. It doesn't matter what house a planet is in, D60, D9. If it's in the same sign, those karmas are coming through. So yes, ascendant the same is very special. That definitely means that you are continuing some dharmic path that you have to continue to complete unfinished business. It could be a great opportunity indeed. Next question from Alex Maximus. Alex says, between most charts, sidereal versus tropical, which is the most accurate? Thank you, Alex. A question often asked, and the way you framed it is important. The question is, isn't it, accuracy? So this deserves probably a whole video, but let me do it simply and straightforward for you, getting to the depth of it, everybody. You've got a Vedic chart, sidereal signs. You've got a tropical chart with your ecliptic zodiac. Which is more accurate? First of all, we have to see the differences in terms of karmas, not just mathematics. I'm not going to go into that here. That's too much to go into. But I will say this. The tropical Western zodiac is based on an attempt to rectify zodiac with seasons or calendar seasons, okay? And it's based on the shifting ecliptic point. It's not aligned with the fixed stars. It's not aligned with the nakshastras. So you are not aligning yourself with anything else in a Western chart than the localized solar system. It's very, very restrictive. It cannot describe who you are. Pandit Sanjay Rath is brilliant on this. He said this. Please take note of this. He said, are you just a localized spirit soul? Are you just an entity from this solar system? Is that who you are? Good gracious, you belong to the galaxies, the multiple universes. You have taken so many births in so many different solar systems, in different universes, in different creations of Brahma. You carry all those karmas with you. So you cannot see your karmas from a tropical Western chart. It's too localized in time and space. It is not who you are. And you know, everybody, that the tropical zodiac was not unknown to sage Parashara. He described how it's useful for reading the weather because it's localized, it's right up front where we are. It's good for eclipses. But if you want to read your karmas, your destiny, who you are, where you've been, you cannot get any information from a tropical planet position or a purely Western chart. Believe me, I've studied both, and that is most definitely the case. I'll make a final point, everybody. This may be relevant to some of you. If you are coming from the Western system, it can be really disconcerting, this difference in planet sign. I know this. I came from the Western system long time ago. And there is this thing, isn't it? Ascendant, sun, moon sign. That's who I am in the Western system. And then you find, oh no, I'm no longer moon in Pisces. Now my moon's in Aquarius. Who am I? Well, my ascendant's changed. My sun has changed. And everything's changed in my chart. Which energies are mine? What you'll probably find is that those same energies are there. Let me give you one example from my own life. I have the moon in Pisces Vedic, but in Western it was in Aries. And so I identified so long with that Aries energy. I'm so Aries, it seemed to be definitely me. And then I found that my moon wasn't there, but guess what was there in the Vedic system? Mars. Mars shifted over into Aries, and my goodness, that definitely gave me probably more true Aries energy than that moon ever did. So you are sussing out who you are, but you've just got to look at it from the true angle of the sidereal zodiac. That's all. Because everyone, the Western tropical system is so based on personality, it is misleading. Our birth chart is not just our personality, how we feel, how we are. The transits are not just how you're feeling right now. You know, life is not just about that. Life is deep events and karmic destiny happening. So you do have to get that sidereal chart to see raison d'etre to your life, most certainly. Next, a question from Sandeep, who says, could you shed some light on Sarpa Dosha, where we have Ketu, Rahu, Ketu across the 1st and 7th houses, and its implications for family and personal life? Thank you so much for the question. You see, Sarpa means serpent and Dosh in a way means curse. Now, this is the thing about the Vedic system. You're going to hear this word curse. It's all about blessings and curses, Vedic astrology, but we should not take them lightly. The blessings are real and the curses are real. But we should understand what a curse is. We shouldn't take it as some sort of voodoo thing. This is simply meaning that when there have been ill karmas, either by ourselves or our ancestors, they are showing up in our chart, and we have no choice but to live them through. Sarpa Dosha is one of those sort of curses, if you like. But guess what? I'm going to show you soon some charts of people with these curses, and you're going to think, well, what sort of curse is that? Okay, because it manifests in different ways. But first of all, let's explain a little bit about the Sarpa aspect. Sarpa refers to snakes, and snakes are very mystical and wonderful beings in this universe and in this creation. And it's a very deep explanation there. I'm not going to go there, but I am going to say that any connection with Rahu Ketu across the angles of your chart, so it's Rahu first, Ketu first, is particularly important. Even sometimes Rahu 4th and 10th, but that's not so dramatic. So Rahu first, Ketu first, as you say, is very important. But Sarpa Dosha is also formed, everybody, when you have Rahu, Ketu in the 2nd and 8th axis and the 5th and 11th axis as well. It's very important to understand then, I'm just going to focus on the first 7th houses because that was your question. It's very important to understand that this is something that has a profound influence on your self and on your relationships, because first house is you and relationships, spouse is 7th house. But it also affects business and anything to do with enemies or competitors also who are there in front of you, because 7th house is about fighting a war. Life itself is a battlefield, isn't it? And Ketu Rahu on this axis, 1st, 7th, whichever way, shows that you have a little bit of a battle in this life. I have definitely seen this. But in the end, this battle is about relationships. It's about you and other people. And it doesn't really matter, as I say, whether it's Rahu, Ketu first. I'm actually going to talk about them separately in a minute, but we have to get a hold of it, because this is really going to take you to a high stage of development spiritually in this life through very difficult, challenging conflicts, and they will be conflicts, battlegrounds with other people. But so much depends on the sign. The sign will change everything. The sign, if it's a very favorable Rahu sign like Taurus, Virgo, it's gonna calm it all down, because Ketu will be well placed too. Let's start with Ketu in the 1st house, Rahu in the 7th. This is probably going to be the most challenging in relationships. And can I just point you to already existing videos on my channel where I go through this Ketu Rahu axis, link below, the playlist of Rahu Ketu through all houses. I go into great detail there, but here I just want to focus on this Sarpa Dosha effect. So yes, Ketu can give a removed feeling from this world in the 1st house. Okay, so lifetimes of focusing on self has brought you to the point of liberation. Virtually, you have given up on the world, but you have also had some difficult karmas that have brought you back into this incarnation to finish, and they are in relationships. Ketu Rahu is a test for you here. Now, for both males and females with Ketu rising Rahu 7th, there are 2 factors commonly seen. Ketu gives you extreme interest in spirituality, in God, in otherworldly factors, which you do study in your life most definitely. It puts you in a different path to everybody else. You are hearing a completely different drama. You are a unique person for sure. But it also gives aggression, independence, self-will, because Ketu is like Mars. Yeah, so for some females from certain cultures in the world, this can be very challenging indeed, because these are not acceptable behaviors. Now, this can give a difficult relationship experience, because Rahu 7th can attract you to sometimes unsuitable partners, sometimes, not always. I'm going to show you some charts of very long-term relationships, okay? But there can be, according to sign and affliction, difficult partnerships, and even narcissistic, self-willed, selfish partners sometimes that you have to deal with. And you don't want to deal with them. You struggle so much. It's something which you have to go through, because in the end, this Ketu could take this line: I'm finished with relationships. Get me out of here now. Send me to a monastery, send me to some retreat. I just want to study my spiritual factors. Rahu will not let you go. You will have to face those relationships. You cannot escape them, because Rahu is the important karmas you have to face. Ketu first is really afraid of relationships deep down. If you really think about it, you do find them overwhelming. Even though you have such a desire to have a relationship, part of you is not trusting fully. So it's a difficult challenge, and it's purely karmic. Now, when we look at the Rahu Ketu, when it's Rahu first, Ketu seventh, we got a different balance now. It's like a new birth. It's like a new cycle of incarnation, like a baby taking birth again. You've wiped out a whole pile of Ketu karmas. That's why Ketu's in your seventh house. You've wiped them clean. So you are not here so much for relationships as yourself, but Rahu wants all of life experience, so Ketu drags you again and again, even against your will, into relationship situations. Watch people who have a major planet conjunct your Ketu. You've got karmas with them. You cannot avoid them. It's going to happen, okay? But you see, Rahu will make you, over time, become very self-assured and confident. But you're not born that way very often. People with a fairly low self-esteem, even if you think deeply, I've seen with this Rahu first house. People think, oh, Rahu first house, self, don't care about others. That's definitely not true. You care deeply about others, okay? But you find that it never really pans out how it suits you. You just can't find that fine balance in your relationships. But still, as I say, people will come into your life just with Ketu first, Rahu seventh, and you have to fulfill those relationship situations. They are destined. They cannot be avoided. In regard to larger family affairs, there's a definite karma here, because if it's Ketu rising, Rahu rising, doesn't matter. They will have a fifth aspect on the fifth house of children. It can also impact education, actually, and absolutely give big delays in your education. I've seen this very often indeed. So karmic factors with children can be seen. Check out particularly planets in that fifth house. They're going to be dynamically linked to this Sarpa Dosha factor, most certainly. Finally, I think it's quite useful just to have a quick look at some celebrities, some well-known people who are born with this Rahu-Ketu axis. Let's start with Ketu first, Rahu seventh. This is coming from a Western astrology database, of course. They may not actually have the same signs. It may be a little bit different, but generally speaking, I've actually put this in as Ascendant Ketu first. So you can look up the Vedic chart, but basically I think it's going to be pretty accurate mostly. Hillary Clinton, very interesting. Bill Clinton with that Rahu seventh. You may know some of these other people also. Of course, here we see Nicole Kidman, Ketu first, most definitely had that Rahu marriage to Tom Cruise. Very well documented. You can check that out. Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, of course. I haven't got the chart here, but my goodness, it's not surprising. A very powerful husband, Rahu, President John F. Kennedy, with a very tragic death. But look, everybody, Her Majesty the Queen of England is here as well, with a long marriage of goodness how many years, right from her 20s to her 90s. Rahu in the first, it's Ms. Harris, second in command for the current presidential race, and John McEnroe. My goodness, if you ever had seen him play tennis, it was like some other situation on that court. Pure Rahu. More celebrities for you with Rahu in the first, Ketu 7 with the Sarpa Dosha. Check out these celebrities' life. You may find out interesting factors about their relationships. Not surprising to see such a strong Rahu in Amy Winehouse's chart. A very difficult life. But you see, there's so many karmas involved. This is just one factor, but it's always interesting to see. Ashjad has a great question. How does one get a windfall of money? Like not by working hard, but just like that. Very cool question indeed. Let's consider this. So what you're asking is, How does money just come into your hands suddenly, unexpectedly, but you haven't done anything to gain that money? Maybe inheritance, wills, win the lottery, all that stuff. Yeah, a windfall of money. Well, here's the truth of it. There is no windfall of money. You did work hard for it, or you wouldn't get it now. It may seem to come out of nowhere, but you did work hard for it at some point for sure. So let's analyze money in your chart. The two houses that rule wealth are the 2nd and 11th. And even if we are considering out of the blue windfall of money, we have to consider those houses, particularly 2nd house. Because if you get a windfall of money, like a huge amount of money, it's going to go into your 2nd house, isn't it? Even temporarily, even if you spend it all. Like that famous winner of the lottery. I forget who she was now. It's like ages and ages ago, like 1950s, 60s, I don't know, 70s. I think it was 60s. Who said spend, 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 and she won like $1 million, which was a big thing then, and she spent it and became poor again. So it'll be very interesting to see her chart, because she most definitely must have had some afflictions to her 2nd house. She couldn't hold on to that money. But the actual indication of the windfall of money will most definitely be the 5th house lord, because the 5th house lord is sudden good fortune coming from your past good karmas. That 5th house lord must be strong by sign, strong by house. Sometimes if you are to hold on to that money, that lord must have a good relationship with the 2nd house lord as well. Even planets in that 5th house, if they are benefics like Venus, Jupiter even sometimes, can definitely give you windfall of money. But always look to afflictions to see if you will hold on to it or not. In fact, I couldn't resist. I've actually just Googled Viv Nicholson, who won that pot of money 1960s. She was famous for saying spend, 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 and she spent it all. Let's have a look at her chart. I think it's going to be interesting. So here is a chart of Viv Nicholson, 3rd of April 1936, a moon chart, because obviously I haven't got a time of birth for her, but a very good example of how powerful Chandal Lagna chart is. Sometimes it's all you need. There it is. Jupiter, 5th house lord, powerful in its own sign. The good karmas that gave her this huge lottery win, conjunct to Rahu. She couldn't resist. Spend, spend, spend. How typical of Rahu. Guru, Chandal Yoga. Actually, that's the next question on this video, funnily enough. But let's look at the other factor. 2nd house lord, as I said, needs to be having aspect of this or having good placement, but it doesn't. 2nd house lord is Mercury in a debilitated state, combust to the sun. Basically, Mercury is trashed. So she couldn't hold on to this money at all. Next question. Unschooly says, please speak on Guru Chandal Yoga sometime, especially in the 10th house. Well, I have a series coming up on my channel where I'll definitely go through all of these Rahu conjunctions for you, including every house placement and Ketu conjunctions also. So let's just focus on the karmas of Guru Chandal Yoga. First point to make about this yoga is that Rahu and Jupiter are enemies to each other, bitter enemies. Rahu's agenda is material exploitation, power, dominance, enjoying material existence, but in a very selfish way. Jupiter, however, is concerned with pure spiritual knowledge and goodness. It is a pure sattvic planet, freeing us from this material entanglement. It's a complete clash of opposites. Because of this, I've seen that this yoga gives a very distinct personality, which I'm going to talk about in a minute. But you really have to judge it by the actual rulership of the chart. So if you have Aquarius rising, Rahu is dominant for you. If you have Pisces rising, Sagittarius rising, Jupiter is more dominant. And then you need to see houses ruled if you do not have those ascendants. So whatever ascendant, where is Aquarius? Where is Sagittarius? Where is Pisces? those areas of your life for everybody are going to have a real strong impact of this Chandal yoga. There will be confusion. There will be many ups and downs in those areas of your life for sure. The sign placement also is very important because Rahu becomes predominant in some signs and Jupiter in other signs. Therefore, this conjunction can become very favourable in the following signs if it is not afflicted: Aries, Cancer, Leo, Scorpio, Sagittarius, and Pisces. So when unafflicted and in these signs, you can definitely have excellent education, wealth, fame, and even good marriage to a very high status individual for female chart. But there must be no affliction. That's the key factor. But whatever the condition of this Rahu-Jupiter conjunction, it does create a split in your mind over many factors in life. It makes you very independent, a rebel of sorts, because Rahu's nature is expanded by Jupiter. You do not want to follow rules. You want to go your own way. You are extremely self-opinionated. At the worst case, selfish. Even sometimes cruel behavior can be seen if the self-will is in any way obstructed. But that would absolutely only happen under affliction. I've seen people at odds with their own conscience with this Rahu-Jupiter. They have a real issue with moral factors. They question everything relentlessly. Why is there this rule? What is this religious principle? Why is there this political stance? What is it for? They are always questioning everything, picking everything to bits, because they just, more than anything, want to go their own way and not be restricted in any way whatsoever. Next question from LA. Is there any significance to being born with a stationary planet, either going direct or retrograde? I would like to hear about this, especially in regard to Jupiter. Thank you for your question, and indeed there is great significance when you are born with a stationary planet. Everybody should get an ephemeris for the year they were born, because it isn't always obvious on your birth chart that you actually have a stationary planet. The planets Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, Venus and Mercury all have retrograde motion. And if you are born when they are retrograde, it certainly has great significance. But there is a very special significance to that particular period of time, a various length of time according to the planet, when they are actually standing still. So just before they turn retrograde, they slow down and virtually stand still. Conversely, as they are actually going backwards, mind you, they are not really going backwards. Retrogradation is an optical illusion, but anyway, just before they turn direct, they slow down and stand still again. So this is known as a station of a planet. So these planets then that are stationary in your chart are very significant indeed. They have a sort of hypnotic effect. They become tremendously powerful. In fact, I would actually say they are probably the most powerful planet in your chart. If you have more than one, well, that's quite an incredible time to be born. So wherever the house, whatever the sign, this planet is mightily powerful and will probably dominate your whole destiny. So when you want to judge significance in your life of this stationary planet, you have to look at the karakas of the planet. They will show you what's going to happen. Your case, Jupiter. It's about children, wealth, education, elder brother, marriage, female chart. So you have to see that those areas will be fortunate mostly for you, but you have to check affliction. And also, let's say you've got Saturn, it's exactly the same. Saturn's going to strengthen you tremendously if he is stationary. He's going to give you caution, a bit of a conservative nature sometimes, but he's going to make you mightily powerful to really get over delays in your life, because he is the one who delays. So Saturn stationary means that you have many delays, many hurdles in your life, especially in that house where he is. But my goodness, he gives you such strength to overcome all of these obstacles. It's actually favorable, I would say, as long as, again, there is not really hard affliction. But I would actually say, though, that a stationary planet standing still is so powerful that it can probably overcome even the greatest affliction. But to make absolutely certain, you've definitely got to take that planet into the D9, D10 chart minimum and see how it is performing for you there. It's obviously going to take a little bit of searching for that. But yes, you are completely right. There is enormous significance in any stationary planet in any chart. It's magnified, it's brighter than ever, closer to the earth, it's startling in its importance. Finally, everyone, a question that's come up so many times under so many of my videos. A recent one from Ritpada Day, who says, "Hi, it's really confusing for me when I see general predictions. My ascendant is Taurus and my moon sign is Capricorn. Which should I follow?" Thank you very much for the question, and let's look at it systematically. So different systems of astrology have this problem in a different way. In the Western system, the sun sign is generally known to everybody, the month of your birth. Therefore, it's always sun or ascendant, which do I go? In the Vedic system, people are more concerned with their Chandra sign, moon sign, and rightly so, because the day you were born is actually very influential indeed. But there's another layer to it that's so important. Chandra Lagna is your life on this earth. Never mind that so many people were born on that day. Don't forget, so many people have your ascendant as well. You see, here's the thing. Moon is mother. Moon gave you the body that's walking on this earth. So everything that's happening to you is happening through that body, right? You are in that machine. That's what the body is. And your machine has a DNA program, and it's all coming from the moon. So your moon has got everything programmed in like a microchip. The moment you first drew breath to the moment you last breathe, it's all programmed there. So most definitely you can judge transit from your moon. You must do. All of your life experience is shown in that chart. So what then is ascendant or Lagna representing? Ascendant is the moment you first drew breath. Therefore, according to Pandit Sanjay Rath, it's your intelligence. But here's the thing, it's your life path as well. It's your intelligence to make decisions and walk down that life path in front of you. It's your direction. It's your destiny in life. That begins the moment you drew breath, right? That's your Lagna. So transits judged from your Lagna show you your direction in life. And when you think about it, there is a very subtle difference here. So when you finish the video, just think about it, because it's really important. Where you are going in life is very different to what's happening to you every day, isn't it? Right? Your everyday experience, what's happening in your life right now, is shown from the moon. Therefore, moon transit predictions are very accurate and very easy for everybody to relate to, mostly if they are done well. But ascendant predictions, your direction in life, sometimes that eludes you, because most of us, some of the time, at the very least, are not too clued into our life direction, are we? We are just obsessed by what's happening every day in our life, and that is the moon sign. So that's why moon sign transits so very often make sense, and Lagna does not always do so. But if you are really, really into your direction in life, your ascendant will make sense. But don't take this too personally, like, oh, my moon only makes sense, so I'm a clueless person with no direction in life. No, that's not the case. For most people, actually, both readings make sense. But if you are asking me which one to really focus on, I would always say moon sign first and then add ascendant. That's just my way of thinking of things, because you cannot leave behind the moon. People who say, oh no, where you are going in life is most important, you must have ascendant, miss out so much information about what's actually happening in their life that can only be seen from the moon itself. But there's something very important to understand about how to read a transit, and that is that a transit from the moon has a completely different meaning in the Vedic system than from ascendant. There are specific meanings for houses for every graha from the moon. So let's take Shani. I'm not talking about Sadi Sati. Let's just say Saturn in your 10th house from your moon. That has a completely different meaning to Saturn 10th from ascendant. Yeah? And so this is very important. It does not have the same meaning, which is why on my videos I always try to make that distinction for you. Hope you found some questions to interest you, everybody. Don't forget, of course, to continue to post below for future editions. Goodbye for now, and God bless you all.